Hi guys, welcome back to the Harambe's Heroes podcast for our second episode. This is Gavin again. I got Bryan and Evan with me, and sitting in, we've got a special guest. He's not going to say anything, but he's just going to kind of sit in and listen. But today we're going to talk about some tournaments that we have going on locally. We've got a tournament that happened a couple weeks ago, and then we also got a tournament that's coming up next weekend that we're going to preview. But before we get into all that, I was going to go ahead and kind of just have some hobby discussion. What do you guys got going on?
Go ahead, Bryan.
Um, everybody knows, not everybody, but Marathi. That's what I have going on now. I was able to pick her up for a good deal. I really like the Xanthar Kai
Oh yeah,
stuff, and I'm getting pretty excited about releasing some snakes onto the world.
Cool.
With all the extra movement they have access to, all the extra attacks they have access to. I think a big 20 block of those would tear things apart. So it's going to be fun.
you really just want Marathi like that. That's what's going on.
That's all it is. It's just how can I make her better? And I think Xanthar Kai, it works well. I like her better in Calibron, but I like the snakes better in Xanthar Kai.
Yeah.
So
What about you, Evan? What you got going on?
Well, I'm just getting my hopes up on the Spider Fang White Dwarf issue that's coming out next week. I got everything ready. I'm just and I have all the spare parts and stuff. So if I need to swap things around, if there's any major changes, I'm ready to do so.
Yeah, it looks. Well, I mean, they had some pretty good rules that came in the other White Dwarfs for the other little sub factions.
Yes.
When does it come out? Is it like next week or
It's
so?
supposed to, at least according to Warhammer, it's supposed to come out next Friday. So the day before our next local tournament.
Nice. All big spiders or little ones too?
Yeah, it's supposed to be. It should be. I don't know if any rule changes, but if it goes according to the way that the previous White Dwarf issues go, it's going to be the 3 battalions that they have and the super battalion that are all Spider Fang related, plus the moon or the terrain piece is almost certainly going to be able to resurrect the Spider Riders if since all the other
Yeah, that should be really cool. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I think they have the most potential to kind of change the way they're played. So.
It should be interesting. I've got some Deepkin I've been working on. I've got kind of like a blend of Night Haunt and Deepkin parts I'm trying to put together and make into an army. I'm happy with how it's coming out so far, but it's slow just because of all the work. Haven't really painted anything yet, so eventually it'll get there. But that's what I got going on. I guess we can start talking about last week's tournament first. I'll go ahead and run down my games. They're pretty simple and fast. I played Alliance of Wooden Sea for Deepkin because I didn't want to play Eels. I wanted to play something else. And it kind of blends Sylvaneth and Eels together. It's like all the worst parts of both. So it was fun, but 8 times. And yeah, they kind of went all the same way. I got run over by the dump truck 3 games. I managed to pull out the second game, which was surprising to me, but
I think it cut out.
It was fun.
Gavin, did you say you played ogres all 3 times?
Yeah, all 3 times. Yeah, yeah. I got run over by the dump truck 3 times. It was still fun nonetheless. I had 3 great opponents, and one of the guys I played wound up going 3-0, and I think was second place. So that was cool to see. He was like brand new. I think he was saying Jack Ratley, I think is his name. So it was cool to see him have a bunch of success, and it seemed like he had a lot of fun, which is like I like seeing that as much as I like seeing myself do good. But yeah, the Ferrari got smashed by the dump truck 3 times. That was my tournament recap. What about you, Bryan? You had a little bit more success, huh?
Yeah, all right. I mean, I played my Wrath of the Ever Chosen list with Archaon, 40 Marauders, and Baron Guard. I went up against. I got lucky on. I went up against ogres early, and it was a good mission. And I was able to get into a big block of Iron Guts and Gluttons with a 40 block of Marauders turn 1 and make them go away. Which really there wasn't much left after that. It was like 20 Noblars and another block of Iron Guts and a couple of heroes that the Vanguard went in and killed all 20 Noblars. They were just outside of 3 inches, so preventing my opponent from being able to pile into them. And then I piled in and killed, I think, 6 out of the 8 Iron Guts with the Vanguard's second fight. Maybe they were inside. Can't remember, but it was a fun game. It went well, and then round 2, I went up against Ryan Miller and his Lumineth. Again, I think I got really lucky on the mission. Scorched Earth really forces Lumineth to do what they don't want to do, and that's spread out of their castle and try to defend an entire side of a board. So, with Wrath of the Everchosen, I rolled my 6 for the Dark Prophecy roll. So I already knew I had turn priority, so I was able to get a little bit more aggressive than maybe I would have, and I got into one side of the board with the Vanguard, made a really good charge, and took out a bunch of stuff early. And then kind of forced the tempo is what I did. I took out one of his units of Dawn Riders, and I forced him to feed me the other one to try to keep up on points. And then after that, after I took away all of his mobility, and then I got his Sentinels, or I was on my way to getting his Sentinels. It didn't go past turn 2. I think we quit about turn 2 or 3, but I was so far up on points at that point, it didn't really matter what happened. And then game 3, I got Dylan, who was running BCR, which he had a bunch of Stonehorns, and we were on, I believe it was Battle for the Pass. It was a long board.
I played Dylan too. He's a great guy. Fucking awesome to play against.
Yep. He's a soldier. That was his last tournament here for a little while. The army told him he had to move, so we're gonna miss him. We're gonna miss you, Dylan. He always brings
say hi.
Yeah, he always brings quirky stuff. It's funny. Like he's probably, like you said, one of the best guys in the world to play. He's just a fun game, no matter how it goes. And I mean, we were both 2-0. We were at top table. So, he took the turn. I deployed in a way where he couldn't get into me early or on turn 1. So he gave me the turn. And knowing that he couldn't get to me, I just kind of backed up or held in place, really. And again, Dark Prophecy roll. I knew I had initiative on turn 2, or priority on turn 2. So I was able to just back up and let him take the board, knowing that once he spread out, I could take it back away. I think the Marauders went in and killed 2 Stonehorns on that turn. And then on turn 2, and then on his turn, he brought the Mournfang in, or I think he attacked with another Stonehorn, and then he killed enough Marauders that by my will, the Marauders killed the Mournfang that he also charged into that unit. So at the end of the fight, I got another big block of Mournfang and another Stonehorn, and it was pretty much lights out after turn 2. I mean, I think Archaon and one of the Frost Lords had a little fight in the middle, but that it didn't go well for the Frost Lord. Archaon put him on the Slayer of Kings. But it was a great game. It was a fun tournament overall.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, a successful outing for Archaon from the 8 points, huh?
Yeah, Archaon's been doing really well this year. It's funny that I've seen recently him popping up in other places in very similar lists to one that you and I both or 2 different lists that you and I were running, that we've been running for a big chunk of the year. Apparently now the world
finally figured out that Marauders would buy my will and teleport, and rerolls are good. It's funny. It's funny how that works.
Instead of Slaves of Darkness just being infinitely in what people would put B tier or C tier, now they're realizing that rerolls are nice. Force multipliers are great.
So cool. Evan, how'd your stuff go?
Well, it was actually pretty fun. I ran Legion of Azgorh, known as known as the Chaos Dwarves, and I was running my 24 Kadai list with Drazoth, and really fun list. Struggles against armor, but since there were so many destruction factions here, I thought it wouldn't really be an issue. and I ended up only going against destruction on turn one or on game one, and it was against some who was it? Kyle, and Kyle had Drakfoot that he was running, and he got both the spells off and everything. So his 30 block had a 3-up rerolling 1 save, so it ended up doing pretty bad. We didn't make it to turn 2 just because he chopped up all my Kadai like it was nothing. It was more of just whoever swings first wins, and because of those saves that he had, plus the 6-up feel no pain, like I just was not able to kill enough to make it worth it. So I ended up having
could die with no rend and into a 3+, kind of a hard slog.
Yeah, it wasn't enough to push through them. I mean, I think if it had been average as far as like that 4-up save or something like that, because I did kill quite a few. I think I took out at least 10, so there's 20 damage right there by itself. But if it had just been a little bit worse on that save, I think it because he had another 20 he had a 20 block on the side as well, and I completely wiped him with my other 12 block of Kadai. So it just he got everything off, pushed up, and he was sitting on that center objective, and I was not going to be able to get through it. So that was a complete wipe for me. And then going into game two, I went against Nick, who was playing Khorne. And that was actually a pretty fun game. We both decided we were just going to run at each other and see who could win. And it was hilarious watching Drazhoth charge into all his guys. And when Drazhoth killed them, they would get to fight before they died. And then Drazhoth would fail his saves, but have his 5-up feel no pain that also reflects the damage back. And so it just kept going back and forth where he was just chewing through his own models.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Drazhoth definitely carried that game by himself.
The Blood Warriors, I think, just have that fight when they die. I forget what
that's what it was.
Specifically,
yeah. No respite or something like that.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, we were both laughing as we were just picking. I mean, even his heroes were reflecting damage, like doing more damage to themselves. But that's how I usually play with Drazhoth. Is he just that 5-up? I fail all my saves, and then that 5-up feel no pain, I succeed on almost every time. So
nice, dude.
Yeah,
Evens out.
So that one, I ended up winning 14-0, and then going into game 3, I went against Peyton, who I've never played before, but he was playing, and I guess I heard it was one of his first, I think his first tournament that he had been to for Age of Sigmar.
I think it might have been like his first Age of Sigmar games, if I remember right. I think it's like the first games of Age of Sigmar he played.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And he was playing Sylvaneth, and he, I think one of the cool things about Legion of Azgorh is your opponent most likely doesn't know exactly how it plays. They may have played it before, but it's so far and few between, and there's so many different units that there's just not. It's never something that you're always going to remember exactly what they do. So I tried to tell him how they worked, but he just went ahead and ran up and didn't really get to do anything afterwards. I think he was just trying to tank out the objectives. But once my Kadai got into his Sylvaneth, I think I took almost everything off of the board. Durthu was gone.
It's not a shot at you, Peyton, buddy. We love you.
Yeah, no,
he works at he actually works at Atomic, so he's in there all the time, and he's a great guy to talk to. It's just like you said, he didn't have the knowledge,
and plus the terrain was set up in a way that I think if he had used trees, it would have been really difficult for him because we were playing long ways. So the distance I think wouldn't have really worked out very well. It was definitely a run and charge kind of list that he had built, and it ended up. So I got in. I ended up doing way above average on my damage. There wasn't much left afterwards, and then I won the roll off. So we decided right then and there that the game was probably over. So it was pretty good. I was surprised to go 2-1 with the Chaos Doors.
A couple rough games too. He played Sylvaneth.
I'm sorry, what was that, Gavin? You were cutting out again.
Dude, audio issues, dude. The first episode. Can y'all hear me now? Is it
Yeah,
better?
we can hear you just
We
fine.
got you now.
Excellent. Yeah. So we took the feedback that everybody gave us about audio issues. And we decided to have even worse ones this time. So sorry, it's just being bad, but we'll try to make it work.
We're just waiting for
so
the
that- I
power outage this time.
Right. But that was cool. I mean, it was a good outing for all the Harambe bros, dude. We had the guy win, and then we had kind of placings all over the place. Ryan Miller also did very well with his Lumineth. I think he went 2-1.
Yep.
So it was.
The
he sounded like he had some
placings-
pretty good games too.
Yeah, I'm showing the placings right now. Bryan came in first place. Jack, who was the Ogre Maw Tribes player that we were talking about, where it was his first tournament, from I think what he told us, came in second place. Ryan came in third place, and then I came in fourth place, 1 point behind him. So I was teasing him that he should have just lost, one of those objective points, so that we could have tied it for third place, but he didn't feel like doing that stuff.
That's funny.
But yeah, I think it was a very fun tournament, especially with how many newer players were there. I definitely thought it was a cool change of pace.
Yeah, it was cool to see. I didn't expect that many people to come out at the end of the year like that, but it's cool to see lots of participation go up. And it looks like we're going to have a lot of people come out to Fat Ogre too. We'll kind of transition into that tournament. We got that on I think it's the 19th next weekend, right? It is on the Saturday.
The 19th. And a big driving force behind that tournament is Andrew, and I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, but Fournier, he's been the TO at this event at Atomic all year long. And he's a great player on top of that doesn't get to play as often. And he has kept the Houston community going. I mean, so many of us kept our hobbying going because we still had those tournaments going.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to get this Ogre tournament going. So at least once a month, he can actually play in a tournament. So that's been the driving force behind getting this one going.
Yeah, cool. And then I guess we're going to do a list breakdown too for it. So we can kind of, look at what we think is going to happen at the tournament. And speaking of Andrew, Andrew, that means he's at the top of the list. So we'll start with him. He's got Seraphon, Thunder Lizard. It's something he's run in the past. It all kind of centers around Thunderquake. You got the Run and Shoot Bastillodons, the Croak on the Balewind. This is going to be a pretty nasty list to deal with. He's got the
Thunderquake.
all the damage. He's got the toughness. He's got the speed. Doesn't have as many bodies as you normally see in a Seraphon list, so that might give him some problems. But he's got enough damage to kind of negate all of those problems that come with that. So, what do you guys kind of think of his list?
Like it.
Yeah, go ahead, Bryan.
I've actually played this against this list. I got lucky. I was playing Khorne. I get lucky a lot. I was playing Khorne. It was a Khorne with a Be'lakor twist in there, so kept a lot of his important stuff frozen for a little while. Pinned the other stuff down with Chaos Knights. I took away Comet's Call with the Hexgorger Skulls. But I think it's a great list. The damage reduction, you get +2 to your monsters right off the bat, +2 wounds on all your monsters, and then the damage reduction from Coalesced is...
that Coalesced damage reduction.
That's it.
It's going to be a common theme here.
Yeah, and it's such a hidden thing that you forget about until you go up and hit them with damage 2 weapons and they don't die like everything else does. It's a sneaky good thing. And what we were talking about earlier, it seems like a lot of the realm artifacts that went away with the GHP 2020, they disappeared only briefly to land amalgamized versions of them slammed
They're
right
too
into the
busy
Seraphon
combining
book.
them like a Frankenstein monster.
Mm-hmm. Like Andrew's Stegodon is a force to be reckoned with, and if you're not ready for it, it's going to eat your lunch because it's going to fly. It's going to be -1 to hit. It's going to have +4 movement. It's going to reduce all your damage by 1. Watch out for it. I've played this list. I know how strong it is. You have the Savage or Swift stuff that you can choose between for the turn. You got, Croak in there on a tornado doing his thing. In fact, we need to change Bellwind Vortex from that's name to the bottom half of the Croak model, because that's kind of the way it exists now.
It's something that you see there's 3 Seraphon lists, and they all have Croak NATO. I think that speaks to how strong the combination is.
I think the double shooting Bastiladons are always super scary to deal with. I mean, because you don't expect them to be able to do as much damage as they do, but especially if there's no chaos armies they're fighting as far as what they would end up doing extra damage to. But man, it's always scary to see that kind of shooting come at you.
Well, even then, it's damage too, so it's still pretty significant damage.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see how that plays in the coalesced matchups, assuming they happen, where those Bastiladons are only going to have 1 damage against each other because of their rules. So I like to see. I think the Bastiladons are going to function more as tanks in the mirror matchups, because the damage is really going to get cut down to where it's almost going to not be worth using the CP to double shoot them, I think.
No, I don't think so. I don't think you use it in that matchup.
But
everything else, dude, everything else, you better be afraid of those Bastiladons, yeah.
Cool. So, is that all we got for him? Do you want to move on to the next person?
Yeah, we go into more Seraphon, Mr. Casey. He's got his list kind of revolves around his Sunclaw Battalion, lots of Saurus warriors with the character support to make them better in combat. Also has the Slan, I believe. I can't remember if he has Croak or not. I think it's just a regular Slan.
It's just a regular one.
Just a regular Slan.
Regular Slan, so more utility instead of damage. And he's going to march forward. He's going to be a little slower, but he's going to be tough with big blocks of Saurus that do good combat damage. And these missions will be pretty good for that kind of play style because they're more condensed boards and lower objective count. So there's 2 4-objective missions and the one that's got all the missions in the center of the board. So I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem for him as opposed to something like Scorched Earth or Total Commitment, etc.
And luckily, he does have the Carnosaurs to help mitigate some of that movement. I know they're more glass cannon than I'd like to believe, but since they are in Coalesce, they do have that damage mitigation against some of the stronger, higher damage things that are fighting them.
Yeah. My thoughts, it's a mid-board grinder. It's a mid-board meat grinder is what this list is. It wants to go to the middle. It wants you to come to the middle, and it wants to grind you out right there. I mean, with the +1 rend, and extra attacks on the jaws. So, the old blood on Carnosaur is going to tear up people's heroes with the +1 rend on its weapons, plus the +1 damage against heroes. So it is a mid-board meat grinder. Like, it really is.
Well, and we do have Emerald Life Swarm and Palisade in this list as well.
Palisade's interesting. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it function as anything more than like kind of a coherency disruptor, because again, a lot of the shooting lists that you're going to see later in these lists, I don't know who's playing shooting. Somebody's playing shooting. But once the shooting is mobile, and then the Lumineth shooting ignores line of sight. So I don't know if he's going to be able to make that Palisade work as well as it should, but it will be good at taking up space, especially if he gets in the center board and starts grinding on people. And then he's got Kotal's Claw instead of Thunder Lizard, so he'll have a little bit more damage on those warriors. It really is about the warrior stack, I think, in this list, and it'll be interesting to see. I think he should have a Star Priest in his list, just because Immortals shore up a lot of your bad matchups with Seraphon, but we'll see how it functions without it. And then we've got Seraphon again with Mr. Clifton Pope, somebody we all know very well. If you want a good little joke, I'm not going to say it on the podcast because the name of his list is a little vulgar.
Oops.
But you want a nice joke, you should go look at that. He's got a great name for his list. It's really similar to Casey's list, except it's a little faster because it's based around the Knights instead of the Saurus. warriors, and he has a star priest for the mortals. So I think that'll be the main, the area where it functions differently. And then he's also got the croak damage, so it's not just utility he gets out of the slant. It's more of an AOE on top of all the things I said earlier. But I don't know. You guys see anything else about his list?
It's very similar to Casey's, like you said. I believe it just goes a little faster, and then the big dinos go real fast, and then he's got Croaknado behind it all, just bombing on you. I mean, if like we mentioned, there's a tornado in every Croak's bottom half. They bought both pieces of the Croak model, so he's just going to be behind all that. All that stuff's going to go flying forward and pin you there and be cool, and then Croak's just going to bomb on you.
He's bringing in the scenery, though. That's cool.
Yeah, it's in his list. He's got the big, worthless terrain piece that nobody likes. The big, the thing that they looks like they sculpted out of cardboard and then just put
Up
that
there,
in
Gavin. What'd you say?
building program.
Yeah, talking about the terrain piece and how it's shaped.
Yeah, the big cardboard box that nobody likes. The one new model for Seraphon, instead of giving them actual new models, they got a big cardboard box that no one even likes.
Yep, because anyone can go in it too. Your opponent can garrison in it.
Yeah, it just seems awkward. It just seems kind of like an afterthought, but without complaining too much about Seraphon mechanics, they could have done better on their models, I think.
Yeah. I like it, though. I like the list. I think it's going to go fast. It's going to pin you. It's going to have Geminids and Bellwind to help.
Yeah, that
push that
Croaknado is
damage
always
through.
strong.
Yeah.
It's coalesced, and there's a lot of stuff as we get further into the list discussions that rely on 2 damage, and that coalesced is going to be harder to deal with for a lot of those armies, I think.
Okay. Well, I think we got Cliff out of the way. I see we got a couple
Eric Denny next. There's no list.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same for
So
Dylan.
if y'all want us to discuss
Dylan's
your list on, yeah, Dylan dropped. Sorry, Dylan. Enjoy all that army stuff. It seems real fun. But if y'all want us to discuss your list, you got to submit it before the deadline. Yeah. So please submit your list, please. And then we'll move on to Evan's list. I'll let Evan discuss it. He's got some stuff that he's excited about.
Yeah, so I will be running a 1-drop Legion of Azgorh 27 Bull Centaur list. So it's 2 12 blocks, a 3 block. The named hero, Chartor the Executioner, the Bull Centaur hero, and just in 1 battalion. So it's really fun. It's more for the memes than anything else.
He's gonna take his list of McDonald's and have it slaughtered for cheeseburgers.
Yeah,
after the tournament.
yeah. It's like BCR, but not as good. So, I mean, they're not monsters. So, I mean, that's kind of the cool thing. It's a ton of bodies. It's hilarious to see because they are on the same bases that Mournfang use. So when you stretch them all out, it's just like a ridiculous. If you don't have fly, you're not going to be able to kind of move around them very easily because they take up half the board. So the battalion is really cool because you re-roll all the hits. You pick an enemy unit at the start of the game. You will re-roll all hits from anyone in that battalion until that unit is dead, and then once that enemy unit dies, your next hero phase, you pick another one to be marked for death. So I think it's really neat concept. Chartor does some mortal wounds. They all kind of buff their abilities. They have extra stuff for their charges. It's just, like I said, it's a lot like BCR and how they play. It's just slightly tuned down. So should be fun.
Nice. I think it's a 1-drop too, so it might. I think you'll at least have a lot of play in deployment, and then dictating first turn will at least give you a fighting chance against most of these armies, even if it does lag a little bit behind on War Scrolls.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is too. I mean, they're 5 wounds each with a 4-up save, and part of the thing is that they ignore that first wound in the shooting in the combat phase, and I mean, people kind of blow that off and don't think it's really that good, but it ends up. I mean, you're talking mitigation wise, that's a lot of damage that's just taken out of the equation. So,
Yeah,
and
that's
plus,
4 wounds per turn that
yeah,
theoretically, or 3 theoretically that you could.
well, even the heroes get it, so it could be 5
Oh yeah,
each shooting and combat phase. So it's definitely there. I've seen it save me a lot. Definitely their weakness is magic and mortals in the hero phase. But it's just one of those things that I think it'll be a fun list that it has that advantage because people have not gone up against these things. They all their attacks or their melee attacks have rend, and then their charge. When they charge, their hooves do extra damage. It goes from 1 to D3, so it can surprise quite a bit, especially against a lot of squishier things. It's just going to bulldoze through them.
Yeah, with the hit rerolls, you kind of circumvent some of the problems the list has with all of the hit. Like if you usually run into stuff that has hit modifiers, you struggle to do damage. But with that mark,
Yes. Yeah, I had that
concept. It lets you kind of mitigate that.
Yeah, I had that problem with some of the armies where it's quite easy to bring it up, go from that 3 to hit to the 5 to hit. I was fighting Lumineth in their Ymetrica list, and I had a 6 to hit on one of my 12 blocks, which really hurt, but that reroll made it a lot easier, and I ended up still doing a pretty decent amount of damage to push through that line. So yeah, should be fun.
Yeah, and like you said, most people don't know what it does, and they're big, intimidating models on the table.
they definitely are. I mean, they're really big. I mean, like I said, they're actually bigger than Mournfang as far as the size wise. They're on the same base, bigger than Dracoline. So I mean, it's 27 larger cavalry on the board with 2 heroes, and Chartor himself is the size of a. He's actually bigger than a Stonehorn. So I think it's board intimidating. I think it's if you have things that fly or are able to tie it up, it becomes quite easy. But looking at the list, like they play well into a lot of destruction factions and stuff, which is really cool that we're seeing a lot of those.
So. Cool. But speaking.
Oh, Gavin, I think you're
a fun list. It looks like my list is up next. I'm having voice connection problems again. Am I back now?
Yep, you're back.
Hello. Cool. Yeah, more audio problems. But speaking of fun lists, my list is up next. KO, Barrack, Ziflin, haha. It's a little bit different from the normal. The thing that you're going to see, it's based around frigates. So it's not going to be the ironclad clown car. It's going to be frigates. You're still going to see the dreaded warp lightning vortex. I've got the flare pistol, so I can make my shooting better. But it's going to do what it does. It's going to shoot. I have high hopes for the list. I am not sure how it's going to deal with all of these high model count armies on these condensed boards. But it's something I'm excited to see. It's not something I play tested very much. It was what I was going to bring to LVO. So I think it's going to be a really competitive list, but we'll kind of see at this tournament. That's my perspective on it. What do you guys think about it?
Go ahead, Bryan.
Well, I wrote down a few notes, and I think it goes something like Warp Lightning Vortex plus Flare Pistol equals turn 1 death. So that's what I think. I think that Flare Pistol is a hidden little thing in there, a hidden little gem that not all the lists that I see out there for KO bring, but just him shooting at you, now you get full rerolls. That's crazy. I mean, it's so good. It's so good. I think I'm one of the few people who have personally played against this list with a decently resilient army, and it wasn't that close. I mean, there was a snowball's chance for me to maybe pull out a win, but it was dominating. It was dominating. I really like the list. I think it can beat anything in the field. I think so. I think they can beat anything out there. Like you said, the condensed boards, higher model count armies might give you a little bit of trouble, but I don't think so. I like we talked about last week, where people like to say that KO's weakness is they don't have enough bodies on the board. Well, by turn 2, neither will your opponent.
How many drops is this
it
list?
kills stuff. My list is 6 drops and 1,970 points, which I think is something people aren't really thinking about. 1970 gives me a really good chance at the Triumph, and the Triumph is huge, and I don't think a lot of people don't even like roll for it.
Yep.
But if they have the lower points, because I mean hits, wounds, or saves, and K already have that with the Aether Gold. I think it just makes that turn 1 even more brutal. And the 6 drops is kind of medium drop. It's the Ironclad build centers more around a lower drop army, but I think the frigates give me better board control, and that was kind of the concept of the army. I'm excited to see how it performs. I'm not 100% sure on what it's going to do, but I'm going to shoot stuff, and hopefully I don't siphon all the fun out of the games. That is not
Having a little bit more audio problems there with Gavin. But
I think he was saying that's not its goal, to siphon all the fun out of the game.
No, that makes sense. You know, I think that we're all here to have fun. I think a lot of the lists are more competitive this season, but generally, I think that it's not the win at a take it to a tournament expecting to win.
Yeah, I don't think that it's even possible for him to siphon all the fun out of the game when the fun thief Teclis will be there.
Yeah, you want to talk some more shit about Lumineth? Don't let me stop you. We can go ahead.
We got
can jump
time.
around. We can
We
jump
got
out
time.
of order.
We got time. We can get there.
Yeah, we got to take our time.
So, so I guess we'll move on. Was there anything else you wanted to add to your KO before we go to the next person?
No, it's mobile and it shoots.
Yeah,
and it's got a little bit more better board control. So I'm excited to see how it does. Got another no list. It's a guy I played against last tournament, James Germany. I think he's playing Ogres. He's a great guy. Upload your list, sir, so we can talk about your stuff.
We got Hunter's list uploaded. I don't know if you're able to see that.
Oh, yeah, we got Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see it. It's the Big Waagh. And the thing that jumps out when I look at it is the Maw Crusher is the superstar of this list. You got the Live to Fight, Metal Ripper's Claw, and the Iron Fist makes it move twice turn 1. So you've got a big damage platform that runs up and smashes something. That's kind of what jumps out to me. What do you guys see?
Exactly that. I mean, that guy is just going to run up and just kind of do his thing where he either crushes what he needs to and heals off of that, or he just kind of fades into existence. And then
it's a proper destruction list. You're playing destruction right, Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to boil down to what we talked about a lot of the list building stuff last week. Did you bring a screen or not? Because you'll need it. Like, if you didn't bring one, that's going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to hurt real bad. I have been mowed over by many a Maw Crusher. And it's not a fun day when it kills your whole army.
Yeah, the only things I see it having trouble with is if that Maw Crusher can't get enough done. The rest of his list is kind of slow, but I think he probably knows that when he.
Yeah, and I think some of them are even when I was playtesting a lot of the game plans or battle plans, they were pretty like run to the objective, kind of hold it, and it was very speed oriented. So I think that'll be something that we'll find out in this tournament.
Oh yeah, and 15 brutes and a mega boss. Go ahead and go get that objective. I dare you.
He's got the golden tooth on him too, so he's battle shock immune. So that should help him out as far as holding onto that part of the table.
Yep.
Yeah, go take that table from 15 battle shock immune brutes. Good luck.
It'll definitely be interesting to see because, like you said, you kind of have to just deal with the fact that you're not probably taking that objective.
Yeah. Give that one up. Yeah. If he gets on that one, it ain't yours.
So should be fun though. I think that was can you tell everyone what the battalion does? Do we remember what Iron Fist does?
Yeah, the Iron Fist. You see, it lets you move a what are the yellow orcs called? Not Bone Splitters. Iron Jaws. Lets you move an Iron Jaws unit in the hero phase. So it is most likely going to be on that Maw Crusher, so he can get it into what he wants it to get into.
Cool. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's that one. It's a free Mighty Destroyers move per turn, if I'm not mistaken. And that's not just a move. If you're not ready for it, that's also a fight in the hero phase. If he's already in your face.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is attached to the battalion. So the Iron Fist battalion, you pick a unit to have a big boss. So it is kind of hard to make the mega boss fight in the hero phase because he's probably not going to be close to it. But I guess it's something you could wind up seeing. He is playing it in Big Waagh, so he doesn't have the command ability like he would have in Iron Jaws. But I think Big Waagh is also very viable.
I'm sorry, Gavin. What was that last part?
I think it was just speaking to the viability of Big Waagh. It is definitely viable. I mean, every bit of this by turn 2 is going to be probably hitting on 2s. Everything's going to have a 6-up feel no pain across the board by turn 2, probably. It's pretty good. Like Big Waagh by far is my choice from the book. If I was going to play orcs, I would be playing Big Waagh for sure in Warclans.
Yeah, it has a good sustain to it that I like. Even when I fought Big Waagh the few times I have, it's really hard to get through all that, and if you don't have the maneuverability to get around those units, you're just gonna get trapped and probably lose off of the objectives.
Yeah, if you allow the army to do what it wants to do, and that's come forward and beat your teeth in, then you're not going to have a fun day. If you have ways to get around it,
interesting to see all of these destruction armies and how they match up into the coalesce matchups if they pull those matchups, because a lot of especially Big Waagh, their damage is tied up in a War Chanter and doubling their damage, and coalesce kind of negates that War Chanter, unless it is on the higher damage characters or monsters. So I like to see how those matchups play out.
Yeah, I think coalesce are gonna have a real interesting time, or everyone's gonna have a real interesting time against coalesce this matchup, because normally you see the Starborn, I think, played in a little more competitively, but those coalesce, man, they're pretty scary. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think they both have their strengths and weaknesses, but I don't think if there is a drop off, I think they just do different things better. I don't really think it's a noticeable drop off because it's not a linear comparison. Those armies have two distinctly different play styles, so it'll be interesting to see how those coalesce players navigate their matchups.
All right. Well, so after Hunter, like we said, we don't have James Germany on here, so we got James West.
Yes, he's got some Beast Claw with a big one. He's bringing a Mega Gargant in typical James West fashion. He's playing BCR with a Mega Gargant and lots of the smaller Beast Riders. What are they called? I can't remember.
Mournfang. Lots of Mournfang.
Mournfang and a Gargant. And so excellent list. Super off the wall in typical James fashion. The things that jump out are the Thunderbellies, command abilities and allegiance abilities, and also that Mega Gargant's a nice wrinkle.
Yeah, I think the Mega Gargants are always fun. I mean, just with the kit, like I always thought, because I play Beast Claw, and I think it's one of those things that it's always neat to see how they kind of field into how you can always bring a Mega Gargant into one of those lists and make it work, just because I think they sync so naturally, even outside of their own subfaction.
The thing that popped out like right off the bat is, you got this Fire Belly. Granted, their magic is not easy to get off always, but you got the Fire Belly with the -1 to hits bubble that he can generate, and then this big Gargant who just jumps up and down and pitches a fit, and now you're -2 to hit in a bubble. So
big bubble too.
Yes,
And then it's got a lot of abilities that even out the Mournfang damage, which will be interesting. I think the unit gets underestimated in general because you just don't see it. You see Stonehorns. So when you don't see Stonehorns, you think that those Mournfang are just instantly worse. But I don't know if they're gonna be. I think they've got some play, and it's like the hidden potential that James always finds. That's what he's looking for in a list. So
he's probably gonna run them up the board's edge. Because of the abilities that they have as far as being able to either run and charge and have that extra movement so he's probably gonna run those up the board if I had to guess, and because like especially since he's running the hackers, he's going for that rend damage. I think most Mournfang you see them use the clubs because they're running them in the battalion to do the mortal wounds, but the hackers are really good with that rend that they have. And then
I'd like to see how their damage stacks up against Coalesce again.
Yep.
It's going to sound like a broken record, but flat 1 damage reduction for these melee armies. And even KO is going to give me some trouble, I think, because it's just a big ability. I think that is all that I kind of saw about James' list.
Too, right?
Yeah, all of the shorter, like 12.
Yeah, your 12-inch
range
guns.
stuff is all damage too.
However, this is a lot of model count as far as objectives. So I think that's one of the things too that like is gonna if there was a counter to like let's say if this hardest matchup was something like Coalesced, I think that the model count, if he can get the Mega Gargant or the Frost Lord or something like on those objectives early, that's really gonna play in his favor because it's going to be really
they count as 2 models.
Yeah. Well, the Mournfang are 2, the Frostlord's 10, and then of course the Mega Gargant counts as more. So.
Well, I think that outside
it's not on the word scroll. It's
oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It will only count as 1. Yeah. He does count as a leader, which I think one of the missions has leader play.
Oh yeah, for the extra point if they're within 6, which I think.
Yeah.
Could he fit in between the 2? I'm not sure if I can't remember the exact battle plan.
No, not on that. It's they're in 4. The board's split up into 4 spaces, and they're far enough away to where one model can't reach both. I think.
Yeah.
Still makes you second guess if you want to try to challenge that guy.
But like Gavin said, this is typical James West. He's gonna bring something that you're not gonna think it's going to perform the way it does, and then you play him, and then you're in for the game of your life. Like it's. He and I have had some long games lately that have gone down to the wire. So it's a typical James play. It's awesome. I can't wait to see it go. Being from a TO perspective instead of playing, I get to walk around and actually see these armies perform on the table, which is really fun aspect of it for me as well.
Okay. Well, I guess moving on, we have Kevin Rand with Legion of Blood.
Yeah, so it's the old Legion of Blood battalion that you've kind of seen make its way around the GTs in the past. It's been around the block a few times because it was in that original Legions of Nagash book. Legion of Blood, 2 Vampire Lords and Zombie Dragons, and Neferata are the main players, and then he's got the support piece, Chariot, and then the infantry that goes along with it that's kind of just there to screen. I think it's got some good potential. What I think is going to happen, though, and a lot of these armies are going to dictate damage against it, and he's going to have a little bit of a rough time. He'll be able to mitigate some of that with Neferata's minus the hit bubble that she can use. But it's just low wound count, low model count, and a condensed board. So if he's not able to get enough damage out of those Vampire Lords and Zombie Dragons, he is going to have a little bit of a rough time, I think. But that's what jumps out at me.
I noticed that right at the beginning that like it looks like a ton of fun. I wish I had more lists that were similar to that as far as just running, your main squad and then everything else.
Yeah, just all centerpieces. Yeah. It'll be a cool army to look at for sure.
That 81 wounds does kind of stand out. I'm curious to see how it plays.
From a competitive standpoint, this is a list that was strong that lost just from the realm artifacts going away. It lost a lot of its survivability. One of those used to have an ethereal amulet, and the other had something else.
Well, Neferata has the spell that can make one of them ethereal, so that was a play. You had 2 ethereal zombie dragons, and it was hard to move them both. And they kind of went around the board and did enough damage to get people off of objectives. Is kind of how it used to function.
Seems fun. I've never run against it. Do we know what the court of Nulamia?
The Lamia, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's so what it does is it makes his units very fast. He what he's going to do is stack the movement spell opinions. It gives him a bonus movement on the zombie dragon that already goes fast, and then he's going to add more movement on that zombie dragon that already goes fast, and then he's going to have basically like a 32 or 34-inch threat range on a pretty good platform as far as damage and toughness and mobility. So it'll be interesting to see how those perform, because we'll be able to dictate where the fight happens, which is a big deal, I think.
Seems cool. Anything you want to add, Bryan?
No, I mean, it was a common list last year. We saw it a lot. Jeremy Cooper and Matt Reniger played it. Both tried to pretend like it wasn't strong. like they were going to fool us. I played it. I think the zombie dragons lost a little bit of their punch, but man, I'm excited to see 2 of them on the table. It's been too long since we saw a zombie dragon or a terror guy around, and I'm looking forward to it. And Kevin is a good player. He's been in and out of these tournaments all year long and been right up near the top or winning some of the events. So it'll be cool to see what he can do with it. I mean, again, from what I'm seeing so far, we have a lot of melee damage versus a lot of melee damage reduction. So it's cool. We're going to see where that comes out in all of this.
Cool.
It'll be fun.
All right. Well, next up we got Kyle, and he is running Stormcast Eternal.
Yeah.
And this is something that Bryan also likes, so let him kind of run through the list.
Well, when the Marathi book dropped, this is one of the first things, because I looked at it because I was already kind of messing with Stormcast. I was playing around with the Super Battalion Shootcast list, but I didn't really like it. I mean, obviously it's a good list, but I personally I didn't like the play style. So I looked at this, and it's easy to explain. It's going to put 120 wounds. One of them's going to have a 2+ save, rerolling 1s. The other one's going to have a 3+ and be -1 to hit. And they're going to shove them in your face, in your deployment zone before you ever get to move. And then against most armies, like your 1-drop army can dictate that a little better. I would recommend you not giving him the turn.
Appreciate it.
Because he does have to do it before the game starts, I think. So there's a little bit of a gamble.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a redeploy. So before the turn order is picked, he does it, and then you decide who's going to go. But it's pretty cool. I mean, it's 120 wounds that are they're pillow fisted. They're not going to do any damage, but it doesn't matter. They're just going to try to hold you where you put your models on the table before the game started until they score enough points to win the game. I like it. I think there's some play there. Gavin doesn't agree with me. He thinks Liberators are weaklings.
I didn't say that. I said that they're going to struggle with damage, but there's plenty of play, especially in this kind of a tournament.
I agree with you 100%. And I was actually talking to Kyle about a game he had played today, and that was my exact comment. It's just, you're going to run into armies that can chew through that. You're going to run into Doc, Slaves of Darkness, just 2 armies that I played right off the bat that I know are not going to have a problem chewing their way out of that. And then what do you got in the backboard? Nothing. You got nothing. So, and they'll do it really quickly. It's going to be fun to see it against those zombie dragons, to see who gets to go, who goes first, and who pins who where. You know, that's going to be a fun matchup. Also against this Kodos Claw stuff, it's going to be fun. There's not a lot of rend in that. Some of them don't have a lot of rend. I mean, it's just going to be a fun list to play, I think. It just traps you. I like that. I like making your opponent try to figure out what to do now that you took their entire game plan away. Like they had a game plan, and now they can't move. And now make a new game plan.
That's the stuff that wins the games. Or just play objectives really well, which can be underestimated, I think.
I like it.
I think it's. I haven't really played Stormcast a lot, but it does seem pretty crazy as usual. Especially having such low saves against most things. Even if it's a 3, it becomes a 3-up save with -1 Ren that really doesn't do much. So.
Yeah.
Hopefully he has better
like
luck on this with his unit regeneration than he does on his hell pits.
Yes.
He can never roll the 5+ regeneration on his hell pits, but hopefully he can bring back some of them liberators and hammers.
Okay. Well, let's see. So we either have. Did we want to talk about the Ringer army or?
I can run through it real quick. That's my personal list I threw in there. It's just it's a Blades of Khorne Gore-Tide special. It's one that it's not a terrible list. In fact, I was playing with it and doing really well with it at the beginning of the year. The Chaos Sword on Carcadrak has Hew the Foe and Thronebreaker's Torque. That makes him ethereal. So he's got a 3-up ethereal save. He's got +1 damage on all of his melee weapons. He did lose a little bit of his punch with the realm artifacts going away. He's more of a horde smasher now. He's gonna run and push things. If you got a bunch of really crappy saves sitting on an objective somewhere, he'll go take them off of it. That Bloodsoaker is Talisman of Burning Blood mixed with his ability. He's going to give something +4 to charge. If it's the Chaos Knights that are in this list with their Hornblower, they're going to be +5 to charge. Mainly my thought in this, when I threw this together, Gavin and I were talking about it, I was messing with a crazy, stupid Knights of the Empty Throne list, and then he made a good point, like, hey, it's the Ringer list. Like, build something you can scale back a little bit. And this is a list that will scale back. It's got 30 Blood Warriors in there. It operates kind of the same way that Liberator list does. I want to pin you in your deployment zone with the 30 Blood Warriors, and then the Knights and the Carcadrak Lord run around and take out any threats that escape it. That's kind of the way it's designed to play, with buffed up Chaos Knights and a Carcadrak Lord just cleaning, just like a broom. I want to pin you back there, and then they're going to come by like a broom and sweep up anything that gets out. That's kind of how it's going to work.
It was fun. You got anything to add, Gavin?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that Brian's familiar with. Is what he's playing earlier in the year. It's lots of board control, a little light on damage, like he outlined, but plays objectives well, which means it plays the missions well, and that's how you win games. So I'm sure it'll be fun to play.
Cool. All right. Well,
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, 30 Blood Warriors are way more fun to play than they're going to be until you get into a game and realize it's 60 wounds that are going to punch you when you kill them. So that's pretty fun.
All right. Well, here's the time that we've all been looking forward to. So up next, we got Ryan Miller, and he's playing some Lumineth Realm Lords again. So who wants to start?
Gavin, you want to go?
Let's be fair. Let's put a disclaimer.
Yeah, we'll be fair. We've been really kind of ragging on him for playing Lumineth, and it's all in good fun, Mr. Miller. We don't really mean it in a malicious way, but we just think that Lumineth is really strong. We know that you love Techless. We know that you love Lumineth, and we just got to give you shit for playing it because that's what we do, right? But yeah, Techless is a superstar, stands out. It's going to do all of the stuff that has kind of been talked about already. Very strong casting, stronger than you think in combat, and hard to move if you don't have the tools to kill him. He does have a lot of deepkin, which is something you're not going to see, and it's an interesting wrinkle. So you have the shark with the new rules now. So you have the net. He's going to be netting units. That'll be interesting to see how he's able to leverage that, especially with a lot of these combat armies. I think that's going to be a cool wrinkle. And then the shield eels are mobile and tough, so that'll help shore up some of what Lumineth struggles to do. And then he's got the Aurelian Legion, making him really low drop, rerolling the ones, which pairs well with Syar because you can make your save really high, and then you reroll ones naturally. So it's hard to alpha strike off the board turn one, which I like about it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's cool. I like to see him mixing it up a little bit, throwing that deepkin in there, like you talked about. I think a lot of the armies that gave his previous list trouble, this will help stop them. because a lot of the things that gave him trouble before were things that just went across the board and took out any and all of his mobility turn one. And the sharks and the eels are going to help tie that stuff up, not forever, but for long enough for him to get on the board and start moving around and making his Lumineth things happen. I'm excited to see it. I want to see what this stuff does. He's a fantastic painter. It's always good to get to see his stuff, even if you don't like the list. Just take a look at his stuff, and his Alariel is one of the best models I've ever seen. I think I mentioned that before. He's a great painter, and it'll be cool to see this stuff all go. I like it.
We're 2 for 2 on you complimenting his Alariel.
Oh yeah, I did it last time too.
Yeah.
Well, I love that Alariel. It's awesome.
Yeah, he's also a good player. Just because we say you're a good painter doesn't mean you're a bad player, Bryan. Just so you know.
Well, so I kind of piggybacking off of the Deepkin thing, because I've played him a lot in helping him practice this list, and I think he has always kind of struggled with not struggled, but always kind of contemplated, hey, is the Dawn Riders as good as I need them to be? Because normally he's only fitting maybe 10 of them in total, and they're really fast. 24-inch movement is nothing to scoff at. But they don't really have that punching power to actually stay in with everything. It's usually a joke where if they get into combat with something, they just kind of fail their attacks, and they're just not quite as reliable. Unless you buff them up and just dump everything into them. At least that's what we've experienced in the past. So when we were like, hey, we should really look at the Deepkin since they got the update. Man, it's something else. So first of all, a lot of I don't want to say a lot. Some of those buffs that Techless has, and just the abilities that the Lumineth have actually pass on to the Deepkin, which is, I don't know if that was intentional or not, since the Deepkin are the only ally for Lumineth as far as I'm aware. So it's interesting to see that some of those buffs, like the Feel No Pain and stuff, actually pass on to them. So it kind of gives them that pretty crazy extra strength to it, from what I understand. And then, of course, the net launchers, they're on pretty wide bases, or pretty long bases. So they tie things down. You put the Ishlan Guard into something, and just poke them from the side, and now you tied down the biggest unit and biggest threat. And then, of course, they can use the spells to try to stop any other big threats from coming at them. And they also fly too. I've had that happen where we're playing and then they just retreat over my line and steal the objective from behind me, and that always feels pretty crappy when that happens. But it's definitely like a great playstyle, typical playstyle from how he plays Deepkin, and he's able to incorporate that to cover up the weaknesses that we have with the Lumineth. So I think it's a very competitive list. I hate fighting him, only because it's so good.
He's a great player too. I think part of the reason we give him so much hell is we hate to see when he finally settles. I'm dreading when he finally settles on the list that he wants to play, and that fits his style perfectly, and he just does well with it, because I don't want to be on the receiving end of Techless spanking me in public.
Well, and two, he has 3 endless spells with him: Umbral Spell Portal, Twin Stones, and Geminids. They're all already pretty decent by itself, but just with that Techless thing, you're having everything have at least a +2 to casting right off the get-go, and then the spell portals. I think there's even one of the. I think one of the battle plans is Realm of Shadow, right? So he can just kind of drop it anywhere.
That's not there anymore.
Okay. Well, I'm sure we can thank him for that. But
yeah, I wasn't paying attention. That much. I know there was a reason when I picked it why I did, and I can't remember why now. But then when I saw the things, how negatively it affects gameplay right now, I really think GW needs to take a look at that.
Yeah, it's
because
it's really good.
Yeah, spell portal with anybody who wants to use it for a reason. If they can put it in your face from across the board, it's a bad thing.
I think the big thing is that the Seraphon players and just any of these armies that have the spell casting have to make sure that they watch how close they are to Techless, because Techless is easily the best spellcaster available, and that free unbind that he has is something that even with me, even though I've played him a million times, I fail to recognize that every time, and it always sucks because then if you don't have a whole lot of spells going off, or you have that one important spell you need to go off, it's just gone. You're not going to have it all game, and it's just really.
Seraphon got some teeth for spell casting too. I think with the Slan, it's going to be an interesting back and forth to see if that matchup winds up taking place. To see how he prioritizes his spells with the table-wide unbinds will be interesting to see that.
I think it may have to, he may have to change how many spells Teclis casts to get that higher number, so that maybe there's a better chance that it isn't unbound, or there's a guaranteed chance it can't be unbound. But with the Twin Stones, I mean that and plus Teclis has a +1 casting to all friendly spellcasters within a certain range of him. And I believe that's the one that degrades as he gets hurt. But the abilities that it can do, it's a really powerful spellcasting list that in most of our games, unless he rolls Snake Eyes, he can't fail a spell. And even if
it's the spell Ignore aura is what scales down, I believe.
Because he rolls Snake Eyes, he has 2 +3 from casting between the Twin Stones and Teclis, which I'm not 100% sure if I'm correct on all this. But then he also has the what is it called? The Syar stone that you can use, the Realm Stone.
Yeah,
for the reroll, or
exactly.
add 1.
Or add 1. So it's like if most of these, or a good portion of those spells for the battle line, they only need a 6, from what I remember. So, or even the reroll, it's pretty much, it's all good.
It'd be interesting to see what Croak does to that, because Croak can do it from anywhere, and there's a lot of Croaks coming today.
But he can. Yeah, there's a lot of spells. I mean, every single battle line has a spell casting though. That's a lot of stuff for one. In most of these lists, what is it? Just one slan to try to stop.
Yeah, but I mean, the regular Slan has 3 dispels with bonuses, and then Croak has 4. So it'll be interesting. There's lots of high spells that are very important to Seraphon and Lumineth. So it'll be interesting to see how those roles play out.
Yeah, I mean we talked about that a little bit in the tier list, anyways. That between the top 3 between, or especially the top 2 between Seraphon and Lumineth. So I think that it's always an interesting battle to see. It's never a guaranteed fight, which is cool. So.
And then we can we gloss over TJ's list because you dropped Sarah. I was excited to see triple Mega Gargants.
Me too.
You're not coming, dude. But I guess that's okay. He says he's got something important, so that's all right.
I mean, this list, if I ran Suns, would be exactly like this. I think I would have. I don't know if I think you can run the battle line, the 3 Man Crushers and 1 for a little cheaper. That's probably what
they've all got merit. I think that the one with the 9, because they ignore the normal objective rules, is probably a little bit better. But 3 big boys is awesome to look at, and you've got a lot of cool rules. So I think they both have merit.
It would have been amazing to see it on the table. I haven't had a chance to see.
If I played it, I think I would. I'm with you, Gavin. If I was playing this, I think I would have one of the big ones, and I would have 9 of the Man Crushers.
I think that's what the most competitive one is. But personally, I'll just run the 3 big boys and a 3 block and consider it golden, because I mean that's, to me, is just like awesome to see all 3 of them
too. Yeah.
So all right, well, moving on. Let's see, we got one more. You want to introduce
Zachary Kennedy's list?
We got another Big Waagh. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, we got another Big Waagh list. This one is much more complicated than the first Big Waagh list. He's got the Rogue Idol that functions like the Maw Crushers, the kind of the superstar as far as damage is concerned, and a bunch of buffs to stack on the Rogue Idol. So lots of hidden synergy in this list. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out when he puts it together on the board. What stands out is the War Chanter buffs and how they're going to interact with everything else that's in the tournament. And then Brutish Cunning on his War Boss is going to be cool because it does what the Iron Fist Battalion does. It lets him move and Iron Jaw's unit in the hero phase, which the Rogue Idol is. So he's going to be stacking everything on this Rogue Idol and making it go.
Yep.
Or he also has some Iron Jaws units that he could do it with as well. But
Oh yeah, he's also got the big block of brutes and a big block of Gorgruntus.
with the tooth, so it'll be interesting to see.
I love playing against Rogue Idols. I mean, my first game, it moved 30 inches and ran at me. And it just charged me, and I was like, well, okay, that was something. And plus it flew over everything, too. So it was...
Yeah, it's funny to watch it go. It's like super fast and hits really hard.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
excellent combo.
I like that it can be kind of a support role and a combat role, depending on what you need it to be. I think a lot of those Forge World models kind of like have that dual purpose thing that it's always great to see that this isn't like a one-off thing that we find in these lists where it's like
the spell
doing
lore
it for
buffs
memes.
are insanely good.
Yeah.
Like double move and fly. I think everyone knows about that combo, the double move and fly. If he rolls a double, it's triple moving and flying. But the brutal beast spirits is nuts too. You get +1 to run and charge, or run, charge, and hit rolls. And if he rolls a double on that, he gets +2 to that. Like +2 to hit in Big Waagh. That's already hitting on. So all of you guys that are banking on minuses to hit saving you, this list doesn't care. You can make that thing -4 to hit, and it's still going to punch you with a big rock.
Works on the archers too, which I think is interesting because it's not just melee; it's all hit rolls. So that'll be cool to see as well.
Yeah.
It's
and plus, it's a
list.
lot of heroes. I mean, that's really nice to see. Like, what we got, 6 heroes that we're running.
Yeah, it's good for Big Waagh too because you're generating all of those Big Waagh points, which help that army out a lot.
Yeah, and it's a typical crazy Zach list. It's going to make you make hard choices early. Like it's going to jump on your mouth and make you decide what you want to do from there. Like it's a typical good luck. Like it is a fast list. It's going to go crazy, and it's going to make you make the hard choices turn 1. And that's what I like about it. I like that. I like it a lot.
Yeah, lots of models on condensed boards, which should be able to play the objectives really well.
Yeah. So I believe that wraps it up as far as all the players that we're expecting. Do we want to go into like predictions, or we want to just leave it to?
I mean, I
What do
think
you
there's
think?
probably 6 to 8 armies here as far as player plus lists that can do really well at this tournament. I don't think there's a clear cut winner, and the missions especially favor a lot of these like beefier armies that play objectives really well, and that's kind of what I think about it.
I believe that wraps it up.
Yeah.
Then, did you guys want to talk about anything else before we sign off?
No, I mean, I'm just wanted to say sorry about all the audio issues. I know that was kind of a complaining point as far as feedback for the first episode. It's not something we can control, but we try to make light of it when we can. Yeah, just hoping to see everybody, stay the course and come to this tournament, make it a really fun one. It's going to be the last one of the year. And, we'll wrap up what could have been a better year for Age of Sigmar, of course. But I think with what we got, we did our best to make, lemonade out of lemons. But
So did we want to talk?
Well,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was just going to say I really appreciate all the participation that we've had in this, and all of the people getting their lists in early so we could do this thing and review this. And then, just a shout out to everybody. We've had a lot of hits on the podcast and a lot of people listening to it and viewing it. We really appreciate it. I personally really appreciate it. Share it, get it out there, let other people know about it. But I really, if you like it, like it. If you don't, let us know. Like, tell me what we're doing wrong. Like, send any one of the 3 of us are pretty approachable guys. So, and then wanted to caveat into just keep it in the back of your mind. Spring break 2021, we are going to have the first Harambe's Heroes GT. So keep that in the back of your mind. We're still working on details. Basically, what is holding us back from putting out an announcement and getting it in BCP where everybody could sign up is basically I'm just waiting on the venue price. When the venue price comes out, it'll help me get the ticket price in. And 100% of ticket price for this is going to go into prize support and paying for the venue. None of us are looking at making anything out of this. We just want to get that competitive spirit going again.
Absolutely.
And if we got to be the ones to jumpstart it, well, by God, Harambe's Heroes will jumpstart that shit. Like, we're going to have some fun in 2021.
I agree. You have anything else to say, Gavin, before we wrap it up?
No, just love you guys. Fucking thanks for listening. Take care through the holidays. Have fun with your family through the holidays, and hope to see you guys at this tournament, and then throughout the year next year.
All right. Well, this is Harambe Heroes signing off, and tune in with us next time when we talk about episode 3.